Hello, everybody.
Hey.
We were going to have Mike on tonight, but he had some things come up that he had to take care of. So Kristen was kind enough to join us so we could have some more Q&A and stuff like that with her. But before we get started on that, I wanted to talk about something. Oh, wait. Kristen, go ahead and say hello.
Hi.
That's it? Really?
Okay.
All right. So, as some of you guys are aware, we saw the videos coming out about what's happening or what happened in Portland either last night or the night before. I'm pretty sure it was last night, where somebody was killed. This is a hard topic to talk about, but it's one that we're going to have to talk about. And I just want to share with you guys that I have reached out to all of my contacts in Portland, and I have seen literally every video that there is to see of this incident, and even the things that lead up to it beforehand. The video that was shown in Breathe America early this morning does not show nearly the entirety of the picture. So that being said, though, nobody has seen all of the information yet. There's so much to it that I can't even get it all. So, or at least I haven't yet. But I've got a lot of the buildup. I'm missing the accident, so there's a lot that we can't talk about it, or there's a lot that I can't say because we don't know yet. That being said, from what I understand, the person involved that was kicked in the head has passed away, and that is tragic. And I don't know. It's one of those subjects that, we hear a lot about peaceful protesters, right? Well, peaceful does not indicate violence, right? It's quite the opposite, in fact. So, all of the people involved in assaulting that man and his death at the end, regardless of what he did in the buildup, which is the part that we can't prove yet. There are comments in the video that we saw or that I've seen that says he tried to run some people over. I do have video of him running or driving away, but he wasn't attempting to run anybody over in that part. But there's a big break between there and how the events ended that night. It's important that we remember that there is a big difference between a peaceful protester and a rioter and somebody there looking to instigate violence. The person that, yes, somebody just threw up in the comments, they assaulted a woman too. From what I understand, that woman is his wife. And she was punched in the face and other things earlier in the evening with the altercation. There's a lot to this story, you guys, and nobody's reporting on it. And we're going to do everything we can here to get all of the information. And before anybody says anything about my glasses, it's hard to read the comments, right? Give me a break. So, but with this story, just threw up in the comments, they assaulted a woman. Was that you? That was you. Yeah. With this story, it's I don't want to see any of us jumping to conclusions about anything in it yet, because there's still so much of it to dig into. But just keep in mind, there's a big difference between peaceful protesters and rioters and those seeking to create violence. And to the person that actually, ran up behind the man and kicked him in the back of the head or the side of the head, that man was dressed in tactical gear and everything else. I don't think he was there for peacefully protesting. This is part of the people that when I was there, you see people show up and they're there looking to cause trouble, looking to get in a fight. And that's something that we have to address very seriously in this country. But Kristen, do you have any thoughts on it?
I just wonder, I've seen a lot of comments and I kind of fall in the middle on a lot of topics. And I've seen a lot of comments lately about when is the right time for the government to intervene. At what point does it become just, so out of hand that both sides feel like, it's time? When do you think that will happen?
Honestly, I don't know. I mean, if we're talking about the peaceful protests that are going on, then at no time should the government intervene with peaceful protesters, because that is our constitutionally given right. That being said, the moment that peaceful protest turns violent, even if it's just a small segment of that protest, then I think it is the police and the authorities job and duty to go in there and maintain order and put an end to it. But there's a balance there, right? Some people feel like they're being silenced when they do that, and some people feel like they shouldn't be allowed to do these things, right? So it's really a give and a take. Here's the one thing I know for sure: regardless of how the government decides to respond or the authorities decide to respond, they're not going to make everybody happy. People are going to see it in a positive way, and people are going to see it in a negative way, depending on how they choose to see it. This is one of the reasons we talk about perception so much on Breathe America. So
what do you think they should do if there's protests every night, and I know that there's been a lot of peaceful. There's also been a lot of aggressive. So how do you think that they should gauge that? Should it be like a lump thing, like, okay, no more, you're not doing this here, or should it be a night by night thing, or like just judge each night by what happens that night?
yeah. I mean, you can't police act yet, first of all. So protests going on and it remains peaceful from start to finish, then that's it. Then there's nothing to be done. If it goes violent at any point during that process, I think the police need to get involved. Let me throw this comment up. It says, before last night's incidents, co-founder of the BLM stated that the rioting and the looting was right. That is criminal. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is criminal. And there should be steps taken to alleviate or to do something about that, in my opinion, as well, because we have the right to free speech, but you can't yell fire in a theater, and that is in a lot of ways throwing gas on a fire, in my opinion, with what they're saying from the organizers of the BLM. What do you think about that, Kristen?
What I'm wondering is, I saw someone say, at this point we need to get lawyers involved. Let's see who it was. Denitra. She said, it's been like months. I think we can call a meeting at this point, hire a lawyer, and get it done. Do you think that if the government or the local police sat down with these protesters at this point in Portland and tried to come up with some sort of agreement that would fit everyone's needs, do you think that would be something that would be a right step, or a step in the right direction?
For some people, yeah. For some people, it would be. For them, probably not. Look, protesting, when we're talking about peaceful protesting, that is a constitutionally protected right, plain and simple. And it's very, very important that we remember that. Now, a negotiation process to bring an end to this, that means that the government would have to step in and basically agree to whatever the protesters' demands are, or at least come to some sort of agreement. Do I think that's a good idea? I think at some point you have to listen to the people of the country. That the peaceful protesters are speaking loud enough that something needs to be, there's obviously issues that need to be addressed. Now, whether or not they will address them or not, I have no idea. Do I think that's a step in the right direction? Yes. Do I think it'll work? Honestly, no. But it would be a step in the right direction. I think a lot of these kids are out there protesting, a lot of these kids are out there rioting because that's what they want to be doing. So, I don't think that it will necessarily stop, but it would definitely be a step in the right direction.
Do you think at some point, and this is a question that someone asked, that the Patriots should step in?
No. Well, let me rephrase that. I guess it depends on what you mean by stepping in. Stepping in to stop it? No, they absolutely should not. If you're a patriot, then protecting the constitutional rights of everybody and protecting the Constitution should be what you consider most valuable. Now, stepping in and keeping it peaceful, I had a discussion with somebody a long time ago that didn't agree with how people showed up at a protest armed, right, in Boise. And what's interesting about that to me is, I made the statement back then that when those people are there, it keeps the cops in line and it keeps the protesters in line, right? And they didn't like that. But at the same time, we have a situation, right? It's obvious that we have to do something. So what's the right answer? Patriots, citizens taking the law into their hand is never the right answer. Um, and a group of people going down there to try to control the outcome of a situation that is out of control, in even to begin with, I would highly suggest that they don't go down that road. I think it'll get violent. I mean, part of this video that we just watched, we watched a group of people stop a man and try to detain him and keep him where he needed to be. Like that, this is what happens when citizens police each other. Next thing you know, somebody loses their temper, and this guy gets kicked in the head and knocked unconscious, and I think he has at this point passed away. So I don't think it would be any different going the other way. So I don't think patriots should get involved unless it is to offer security and help point out the fact that the Constitution needs to be protected at all costs.
I'm getting attacked by a bee. Sorry.
So stay calm.
Does this kind of tie in with, we had a lot of talk, I think it was yesterday, about the Sturgis, the motorcycle rally. And, some people felt like the police were siding with the cops, with the bikers, because that they did intervene. Yes. But what do you feel about that? How do you feel like that ties in?
I think the police at Sturgis did a really great job. I think there was a lot of talk before that event about the violence that was coming and this and that. There was a lot of back and forth on either end, and I think they were ready. And the moment that anything got even remotely out of hand, apparently there was some damage done to a bike, and they stepped in and they removed the protesters from the rally. Now, personally, I think they were siding on the air of caution. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that there was so much buildup to them being there. So it kind of one of those things. Like if a peaceful protester, it's like what Lipstick said when we were in Portland about how one person throws a frozen bottle of water at the police and hits one of them, and next thing you know, the whole crowd gets tear gassed. Well, that's kind of how it works, right? Like they're now in the business of making sure that it's dispersed and it's taken care of. So. And there is a natural progression to these things where, we can see it in Portland very clearly. Anybody that's watching can see that it has gotten progressively more violent. Now we can debate all day whether it's the authorities' fault or the protesters or the rioters' fault or however you want to look at it, right? But at the end of the day, it has progressively gotten worse every single day. So. It only makes sense that sooner or later that we were going to come to this moment, and that's unfortunate and it's tragic. And hopefully they can catch this person that is responsible for his death if he is in fact deceased. The information is really hard to come by right now, but at least from everywhere I've been looking, and he should be tried to the fullest extent of the law. That's what this is. I mean, we are a nation of laws, so I think they tie in well.
I think it brings up, every situation is different, but should we handle it across the board? Like, should there be just like a bottom line of when the police step in, or is it case by case? What do you think is the right answer?
Say that again. Sorry, I was reading the question.
So do you think that there should be just like a blanket, hey, this is the point that we step in every situation, or do you think it should be judged situation by situation?
I think that every situation is different, and you've got to be willing to think on your feet. We ask these people to do a lot, but there should be clear guidelines, clear rules of engagement, a clear point where this no longer is a protest and this becomes a riot, right? And once that line is crossed, I mean, they should move very, very quickly to put an end to it.
So what are your thoughts on the controversy surrounding Stone Mountain?
What part of it?
So we had the NFAC come on July 4th, right? They did the march. And then I believe it was 2 days ago, a white supremacist group had planned a march, and they just shut the whole mountain down. and they had some counter protesters there, and I think it got a little violent. I don't think it got too out of hand, but it did. There was some altercations.
Stone Mountain's an interesting thing. If the NFAC, whatever they are, decided to show up at any other national park, they would have been in a lot of trouble. Stone Mountain is privately owned, and that land is leased by the government, so it falls under a weird set of rules for how things work there. So, for me, if militias want to, march, white supremacist groups, I mean, I pay very little attention to those type of things simply because those are the minority of people that are just ignorant on both sides, and I don't have any time for ignorant people. That's just, the white supremacist groups have been around a long time, and their ideology is very clear, and I'm not a fan. The NFAC, whatever, like some of the things this guy has said and I've read into are absolutely ridiculous, and some of the things that the group has done is absolutely ridiculous. I think they shot 3 of their own members. So I'm not going to pay a group like this much attention. Now, if it becomes something where they're escalating violence upon innocent people, well, then obviously I'll be paying attention a lot closer. But for the most part, I just find that group, both those types of groups, just they're a waste of time, in my opinion.
So how do you think the police should handle situations like that where we have protesters and counter protesters, and there's been, I mean, does this kind of tie in how you feel about, Portland, or?
Chris just brought up an interesting point about how the problem is that the media gives these people more than 15 minutes of fame, and you're absolutely right. And that's why I'm not going to give them any. So I just, like I said, it's kind of a moot point. Now, as far as your question about how it all ties in with the Portland when the police get involved, look, we have a very clear and established legal system, and we know what is legal and what is illegal, and it does change a little bit here and there, but for the most part, it's well established. So, and it's not hard to tell the difference between a protest and a riot. Once there's property damage or there's an attempt at violence and things like that, then, the protest is over and the riot has then begun. So the police should get involved at that point and put an end to it.
So John Lee.
I put it up on the screen. I said, John said the Patriots should demand action from their governments. They should demand compromise immediately and call for their removal. Yeah, I agree, John. I think that on the local level, it's absolutely right. As far as DC prolonging it, though, I don't know that I agree with you, because this is a local and state issue, and as I know you are well aware, state rights are state rights. So I think that the local government should have got in and ended this stuff a long time ago. Now, I do also think that when the election cycle is over, we'll see a drastic change regardless of who wins. And yeah, this is an interesting point. Lindsay brings up that no matter what Trump does, or no matter what Trump does, it will be blamed. Whether he does anything or not, he'll be blamed. That is the culture that we see in our country right now. Right, wrong, or indifferent, however you feel about him as a candidate or as a president or whatever, you have to recognize that when you're the president of the United States, everything falls on your shoulder. That's pretty typical, no matter who's president.
I have to admit, I'm honestly a little surprised at how calm he's been during all this. Like, I mean, how his Twitter can be sometimes. Yeah. I'm surprised he hasn't been a little more aggressive.
I guess you got to start asking yourself, what does it prove at this point?
Right.
What benefit? Like, it doesn't benefit him anymore. Like, I don't know. I don't want to speculate on his motives for why he does anything. Just try to look at the facts. So I don't know who this is, but it says, I think local government knows that what's going on and can control the environment is permitted if needed.
That's Denitra.
Yeah, I agree. It's who? Deetra?
Denitra?
Oh, yeah. So I agree with you. I think the local governments could put an end to this very easily if they wanted to. In a lot of these situations, like the situation we saw in Seattle, the police were literally told to stand down. So, and then it wasn't until it escalated to the death of somebody else that the city decided that enough was enough. And it's not hard to tell where these things are going. So why do we continue to have to wait till somebody dies first? I guess that's my question.
I agree. Billy said, should the feds send people into these cities? Should our tax dollars pay to rebuild the cities that have been destroyed?
What was the first part of the question?
Should the feds send people, hold on,
Look, the
into
feds are
these
going to be
cities?
there. The feds are going to be there to defend federal property, regardless of if we send them in or not. That's what the feds do. They defend federal buildings, right? Sending in an organized team of federal agents or federalized police, like the Homeland Security, probably is a mistake, to be honest. Outside of defending federal buildings, I would say that was a mistake. But if the governors refuse to do anything, then at some point, somebody's got to step in and do something, and then the next person is the federal government. So, where are we at?
So Chris says PC culture, that's why. No such thing as proactive anymore, only reactive.
Well, yeah, that's for sure. Toby brings up a point, or Toby says, when you say you will see a drastic change, does that mean that the government will step in and shut this down? I don't know. I don't know either way. I think that depends on who wins. I think if Trump wins, I think he'll be far more assertive in regaining control of these situations. And I think if Biden wins, the left will be appeased and they will slow down or stop on their own. So either way, I think after the election, it could go either way. It really just depends on who wins.
John has a plan to save us all.
Yes, I know John has a plan to save us all. He has. I've heard many of John's plans, and you know what, John, you are absolutely brilliant. You want to come on and share your plan?
Yeah.
Let's see John's bringing up the fact that he's talking more about peaceful protesters and that angle. And there's something I feel like really compelled to say here. These peaceful protesters, like to all of you guys, if you're listening, you're being used. Like literally your movement, everything you're fighting for is being hijacked because of the people that are hiding right amongst you. And that is a problem. And I don't know how to fix that problem, but I hope that you're aware of it and you would start trying to get these people out of your protests that are turning violent. Because the more that goes on, the worse things are going to get.
He said yes.
Watch this. I don't know if you can still see me.
I can still see you.
Sweet.
Is John Leon? Mimi, I see you. Wickard Lee 2020. No, ma'am. VP, right here.
What was that?
I said,
Lee,
Mimi. Yeah, and I said, no, ma'am. VP, right here. First
if we do
female
our
VP.
makeshift debates, Kristen is my VP candidate because John and I or John and Mike are coming up, or we're going against each other.
And
hey,
also,
John, if you're watching, I sent you the link, so you actually can jump on if you would like to join us.
If you and John Lee ran together, I would have to be somebody in your cabinet. You see him?
No, not yet. This is an interesting. So this guy's, I don't know who you are, but this is Facebook user. It says, John Lee, well, can't you see that if these protests continue to get out of control and Trump is reelected, then he has the authority to bring in martial law, and that this is the actual. So what's interesting about that? So maybe you don't realize this, but he actually has the authority to do that now. I'm actually in some ways surprised that he hasn't, simply because he could do it now, and the ramifications of doing it now are drastic. I mean, there's a lot that happens when we are under, or when martial law is declared, and he doesn't have to wait till re-election to do it. He could do it now, and there would be no re-election, because it turns out election processes are canceled under martial law. And there is John Lee himself. What's up, Mr. Lee? So you got a plan to save us all. Let's
How we
hear
doing?
it.
You should know by now that John
Now, that
Lee
is a
always
fine
has a
way-
plan. Did it freeze on him?
Freezing?
There
Am I
you go.
freezing up?
You froze with the fingers up, though, right? Like with the peace sign and everything. It was epic.
So here's the issue that we have. On a national stage, right now, the peaceful protesters don't believe that they're getting any recognition. Just like conservatives don't believe that we get any recognition for the things that we do, we often listen to the people that are the most biggest broadcasters out there, right? And what we're seeing is that basically the protests and the rioters are the same thing. They're implicit and complicit in each other, right? Because these rioters are hiding behind peaceful protesters. Okay, here's the problem. The constitutional right that you talked about, peaceful protesters,
Yes.
you know, I have been to many constitutional rallies. You know what? One of my favorite rallies that I ever was at, well, I wasn't at, but I wanted to go to, was Charlottesville. Charlottesville was a hell of a rally. It was very peaceful for the most part. In fact, I'd say it was 99.99% peaceful, 100%. But you know what happened? Somebody violent, somebody interloper, somebody came in that wanted to cause destruction and damage, and that is all anybody's talking about. That is anybody's focusing on. And they try to discredit all those peaceful people at that rally. They try to discredit all of their cause, all of their entire things. This is what we don't hear. We don't hear saying, you know, hey, Second Amendment rallies sometimes have white supremacists, a small percentage of them that show up and cause trouble. So now you can't have Second Amendment rallies. So what we really need to recognize on a national stage is that if our government, DC, bipartisan, comes out right now and says, protesters, I hear you, peaceful people, just the peaceful ones. I hear you. You want peaceful, legal reform. You feel that you need to have a voice that is not being voiced. I get that. Here's what I want you to do. Come to DC. We'll make you a committee. We'll sit down right now, Democrats and Republicans, and talk legal reform across the board. Law enforcement, you're important. I will not let you guys be left behind. You are absolutely vital. In fact, what I'm going to do is we're going to make sure this legal reform gets you the better training, the better resources, the better things that you need to police your community so you're not stressed out, so that you don't have to have all this stuff riding on you. I would say, and you know what? None of this can happen if our cities are burning. You as Americans, I'm telling you, I hear your voice. I will give you a seat at the table. You must out the people that are destroying your movement and discrediting your cause by causing this chaos. Because right now, they feel like they're being completely ignored. So, yeah, we've heard protesters like Lipstick came in and said, hey, you know what? The peaceful protesters pack up and leave. The rioters come out. I'm not really comfortable with the violence, but it does happen. This complicity that we're talking about, this inability for us to engage in there, that comes from believing that their cause is totally degenerating and not reaching the right ears anyways. They can't reverse the actions of these riots. They can't go back to the time where we almost all universally agreed that these issues needed to be looked at a long time ago. I mean, when we used to see cops in the street kneeling, when we used to see all these other people that were backing the peaceful protest before Minneapolis caught on fire.
So
that's why it needs to be bipartisan, and that's why everybody needs to be represented in this situation, including the American people, including law enforcement. including the people that don't believe reparations is 100% the answer. When you give someone a seat at the table, what I'm talking about is saying, yes, this is something that we can discuss because Americans, citizens, are concerned. They're concerned enough to turn out in 2 million strong across the nation for legislative change. And I promise you right now, any leader right now that is not actively working for de-escalation, actively talking to their constituents to not make this worse, to not feed the hate, to not go out there and rally for it. I want to see the leaders' actions. Those are the leaders that are problem. This administration, I'm not saying specifically about this administration or this other administration or anything. I'm talking about DC as a whole construct. They have the power right now to turn all this off. And all they got to do is do what we've asked them as conservatives to do for years, and to see the individuals that are doing it right as their own separate entity, and not to be drugged down by the criminal behavior done by criminal. Just like gun owners, just like anything else, man. If you are peacefully protesting, you're not the fucking enemy. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Anyways, but when we look at these violence,
back on live TV, buddy.
when we look at this violence, when we look at this, for instance, this video is horrible. Everybody involved in that video that hurt that person or prevented him from leaving, criminal.
So who is antagonizing the violent protesters? We saw in Los Angeles, it was the police officers, random people who do not have the valid reason for inciting crime and violence. Who is backing them? Who hired them? So that is a lot of statements all in one. But I would encourage you, I unfortunately it says Facebook user, but I would encourage you to realize that you cannot use peaceful protesters with a lot of those terms. Okay, there is a difference, first and foremost. And whether it's on the right or the left, we have to be willing to recognize that there are those parts on each side. So now, do police sometimes instigate the violence? Yep, seen that. We've all seen that. You know, do the protesters sometimes, or do the rioters instigate the violence sometimes? Yep, we've seen that.
Sometimes.
There's plenty of fault to go around, you guys. We don't have to sit here and point fingers at people. Hey, Denitra, sorry, it says Facebook user. So there's plenty of fault to go around. We do not have to point the finger at one side and only one side. We can just simply accept the fact that both sides are responsible for how we got to this point. And the real question becomes, how do we get away from this point? How do we pull it back to where we can come back together and we can have a rational conversation and we can make the changes that need to be made for the benefit of everybody, including law enforcement, including, protesters. And then also, how do we find these rioters and the people that are responsible for violent crimes against other human beings and try them and charge them appropriately? Any thoughts on that one, John?
Absolutely. We need DC to come to immediate legislative compromise that's bipartisan. It needs to acknowledge law enforcement. We will not leave our law enforcement behind. I'm a patriot. I don't believe in the abolishment of police. I believe they have the hardest job in the world. But
right,
I believe...
Go ahead and finish, John. You believe what?
I believe that right now, the only thing that can stop this, it's not patriots can't stop this to a certain extent. Is your citizens can't stop this. And that's what they tell you. And that's the big sign that we should all be seeing, the big red flag. They say, you constituents must rise up and take your country back. You constituents must take the power into your own hands. You constituents, blah, blah, blah. No, you leaders need to sit down and start writing some laws. You leaders need to call the Congress into session and don't leave there until America stops burning. You need to do your job that we hired you for. You need to do this, and you need to do it now. And you do have to appeal to all Americans, not just your favorite ones. Our leaders need to act.
Lindsay's asking, how? And yeah, how is difficult. The best way to get how In local areas, it's to start petitioning your governors, get involved with your senators, your representatives, and start making your voices be heard in your local areas. Especially if you live in Portland or Los Angeles or any of those places, you have got to demand that the government, your local government, do exactly what they're there to do, first and foremost. On the national scale, it is a much bigger thing. It's much harder to pull that off. Now, they call them Antifa and BLM. Hold on, there was one.
Two different groups.
Yeah, they are.
I have a question for both of you. Why do you think,
or go ahead.
Why do you think it is that we as American people aren't as involved when it comes to actually making real change? Like, I know a ton of people who will sit there and argue all day long, but they don't even vote. So why do you think that is?
We're complacent. We're complacent with our lives. We're busy going to work. We're busy doing what we do. And we figure out what the hell, no big deal. And this is exactly, and we're very well distracted and very easily divided, so that's why I think most people don't get involved on the level that they probably should be getting involved. But that's the reality that I see. John?
I think really it's the same thing. A lot of people have not realized that the government is supposed to work for us. A lot of people don't remember that it is government by the consent of the governed. And so whenever you see the situation where people aren't voting, where people aren't doing these things, like, you know how many people tell me on a daily basis that if I don't vote for the Republicans or the Democrats, then I don't have a vote, that it's a waste. And the fact that people don't think that is a national travesty and a complete antithesis to the American dream are dreaming themselves. Because I'm telling you right now, we don't care enough to make sure that this doesn't happen. There's a power monopoly going on between Dems and Republicans. They've been trading our country back and forth for years. And what do we see? We see a steady increase of inaction. And so we feel like we're not heard. We're told the popular vote doesn't matter. We're told this, that, and the other thing. There's voting fraud, there's national partisanship. It really becomes this convoluted tale where the American people are depowered by their own thoughts. They believe that they cannot create change. They do not believe that voting for school district board member or whatever, or voting for mayor, or voting for police chief, or voting for all these things matter. And then they get to the national stage and we talk about presidents. We'll back our presidents fiercely on Facebook. We'll fight to the death for them or whatever, but we don't think our vote really matters when it comes to them. And in a way, it kind of doesn't. Anybody who does not vote for the two big names is a protest vote. And that should alarm every American.
So on the screen I've got, I thought conservatives believe in small government. This is big government talk. Like I said, I think this has to start on a local level. I am definitely a big fan of small government, but I'm also a realist. We already have a really large government, so that's not exactly going to go away overnight. So, that large government should be governed or should be by our consent, and it should be done, benefit us as citizens as much as absolutely possible, in my opinion. Any thoughts on that, John? Go ahead,
Kristen, did you have something?
I have a confession.
Let's hear it.
So I'm probably not voting this year. I'm going to be real honest. I don't like anybody, and I don't want to vote for the lesser of the two evils. So
vote for me.
I totally will write you in. But that would kind of hurt myself, so maybe I shouldn't do that.
Vote for yourself. Vote for the American people. That's what people don't vote for anymore.
I mean, okay, so Patrick has said before that he's a registered independent.
Yeah.
And I just kind of feel like if we all took the chance, right? A lot of people vote for the lesser of the two evil. I wonder what would really happen if people really voted on their values and really voted how they really felt and not just out of fear. What do you think would happen? Do you
I think it would take two elections.
Do you think one side or the other would still win, or do you think that we're truly more united than that?
Well, what's great about it is even if to a certain extent most of Americans favor an independent party, the system is still set up to let the Republicans and the Democrats win. So in reality, when we come through to it, I believe that if the American people decided to one time vote 100% independent and then watch Republicans and Democrats not give up their seats, not give up their things, I think it would be an eye-opener for the American people.
Well, we have, our founding fathers, like, pretty famous one, George Washington, kind of a big deal back in the day. You probably heard of him. He spoke very, very openly in his farewell address to the American people when he retired from public life about the dangers of a two-party system, right? If you've never listened to his farewell speech, you should, because what he says about the dangers of a two-party system like we have now, like especially from our perspective, looking back to a man that was speaking 238 years ago, roughly, I think is when that 236 maybe, something like that. Yes, I know America's 244 years old or something like that. I don't know, it was a long time ago. But to look back on it with 2020, which is what we have. We have 2020 vision, right? We always say hindsight's always 2020. We have hindsight now with George Washington's farewell speech. Seriously, guys, you want your mind blown? Go listen to what George Washington himself had to say about a two-party system.
John, so I learned something very interesting from listening to these guys, like so many hours talk about all this stuff, because I'm not really a super political person, but my IQ has jumped a lot these past few weeks. So something interesting that I did not know about that I believe it was Mike or John Lee told me about, that the Constitution and the way that our states are governed were actually meant, it wasn't finished, right? So tell
the
us
Constitution, the Constitution and the Republic, as it was designed to have the best foundation possible and to keep its core to a certain amount of true values or whatever. But it was designed in a way that we could modify to a certain extent. We could grow, we could progress, and as each issue came up, we have to address each issue as it reflects on the Constitution and as it reflects in the spirit of the Declaration of Independence. So I believe that the forefathers didn't want us to be static, and a lot of their legislation points to that, leaving open the Constitution conventions to be decreed, to be reopened, things like that. They've actually designed a system that can adapt. And that's why I constantly tell people that our forefathers, despite what they believed personally, as far as like their religion, their politics, whatever else, they were designing a system where no specific ideology could destroy the American situation, because everyone has that chance to get on the table. We have a government that has checks and balances and all these other constructs designed up so that, like, I try to tell people a lot who are worried about, like, if we get a really bad president, right? Like if we get, a full-on dictatorship president that's like scary. A lot of people are freaking out that like the current candidates, either one of them might be one of those people. I don't think so, but even if we get one, they still have to deal with Congress. They still have to deal with the entire American foundation of politics. Like I tell my friends, if a conservative gets into office, he can't abolish all the people that are liberal, because otherwise he already would have. We're seeing that with Trump. And if a super liberal gets on there, he can't abolish all the conservatism, because once again, if that was how much power that one person had, so I think the forefathers really designed a system that was allowed to adapt with the will of the American people. And the people are what matter. It's nothing else. America is not our government. America is not our politics. America is not our foreign policy or our trade or how we commercialize things. America is we the people. Everybody watching this, you're we the people. That's you. That's you guys. Not your government. Not Trump. Not all those people. Not the Biden. Not anyone. You, the people.
Well, what's sad to me is that people in other countries,
regardless,
they don't look at it like that.
It's true.
Well, sure. You're always going to be represented by your leaders, right? Your leaders are going to be those that, like we always talk about in the mod group and stuff, right? We're going to lead by example here. you know, when your children act out, it's a poor reflection on you. And so but we're in the opposite situation now, where our leaders are acting out, and it's a poor reflection on us. And the way that they've handled things is based on what's beneficial for their own pockets and their own personal wants and desires for the world. It has nothing to do with the people that they actually represent. You know, John said something earlier about, you know, they govern with our consent. You know, well, I don't remember a whole lot of me giving a whole lot of consent for a lot of the things that they did or that they have done. And I think that we live in a time now where we can literally do it differently enough to where I could be asked and I could give my consent if I wanted to for something. I could support an idea or not support an idea based on my own thoughts and my own beliefs. And that would make me feel, at least for myself, a whole lot more involved in the process and a whole lot more free to be a part of how we grow and change in a country, instead of having a ruling class, which is literally what we see today. Whether you're an independent, whether you're a Republican, whether you're a conservative, the one thing that I beg you all to see, Republican or Democrat, it doesn't matter. They are all, in their minds, the ruling class over all of us, the people. Yep. We are the people. We are the ones that are that have all the power in our system. You know, go read the Constitution, read how it's written. The power lies with the people. We are the biggest controller of the power in this government, period. It's not even open for debate. And yet we allow our lives to be dictated to us by people that literally think that they rule over us. They pass laws that benefit only themselves. They pass laws against us that do not apply to them. And they get away with this year after year after year, and we sit by and we do nothing. At what point, you know, do we do something about that? At what point do we change our vote? At what point do we come together in one very loud, undeniable voice and say, enough already? We're not doing it anymore. When are we going to, as Americans, do the most American thing in the world and tell our government that we're done? We're done playing their games. We're done listening to their BS. We're done with all of it. It's over. Like, we want our country back, and we want to run it our damn selves because you guys suck at it. So I don't care if you're conservative. I don't care if you're Republican. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I'm telling you right now, they're all corrupt. And it doesn't take a whole lot of time on Google to figure that out. And that's a big part of why I have to say all this stuff, is because everybody deserves to hear this now. It's time. We've had enough. It doesn't take a whole lot to look around and go, this is ridiculous. I'm fed up, aren't you?
Yep.
I am.
I think we all are. I think we're all fed up. I think we're all ready to change. We're all ready to see something bigger and better. So, you know, when you want to know why we're here, why we have these conversations, what we're building towards one united voice that is so damn loud that they are forced to hear us. And that's why I love every one of you, right? That's why this is so important. That's why we're here, you guys, because we have to. It's not about left and right. We can work all that stuff out. What we can't work out is having a ruling class in what's supposed to be a free country. That is where we need to draw the line.
I don't know about you, Patrick, but I find these truths to be self-evident. How about you?
I 100% agree, my brother. I 100% agree. It doesn't take a whole lot. You guys. This is and the time is now. The time is right now. And whether it's for you, whether it's for your children or your great-grandchildren, it doesn't matter. The time is now. The time is to stand. It is time to stand up and use our voices together, period, to make the changes that we have to make, to put an end to this, idea that we are ruled over. And if you don't think that that's true, I mean, we can talk about that, but I'm telling you guys, we are 100% watching ourselves be ruled over by a ruling class. And they're called Republicans and Democrats. And you can intermix them any day of the week, and it's the same BS on both sides. And we fall for it time and time again. And enough is enough. I want Americans. I want the American Party. That's the only party. We're all Americans. Let's do what's best for our country, for all of us, and let's find the compromises that need to happen where they need to happen. Even if we disagree, let's do it with if we come at it from a position of what is best for America, what is best for the long-term life of America, for our children,
Absolutely.
our grandchildren. Then we're talking. You telling me that we can't find compromise between here and there? I think we absolutely can. I think we absolutely can. But here's the problem. Here's how we do it. We don't do it with the news media, and we don't do it with congressmen and senators and the government. We do it amongst ourselves. We build this movement. We build our voice. We get as loud as we absolutely can to where they cannot or they cannot ignore us any longer. And then we will get what we want. Then we will be able to have the government that we want. We'll be able to see America the way that it was meant to be seen. You know, one of the, like, I got to go, you guys all know, I go and I put myself in situations where I get to watch and I get to see for myself things, right? I watched somebody burn our flag. And that's a smell I'm never going to forget. I'm going to tell you that right now. But I'm going to tell you this. I want that to be the last time I ever see it, right? And you want to know how we do that? We do that by coming to the table as Americans. We stop letting them decide where we fight and where we don't, period. We come together as Americans. We have the conversations. We are the unsilent majority right now. The silent majority, you hear them talk about, we're unsilent now. Now we're talking, you know, and here we are. We're all here right now. And Breathe America is growing, and you guys are all a part of that. And we're only going to get louder and louder and louder, right? And eventually,
there's one good point to this, man. One great point to this.
Technology
if
is
your
amazing.
If your candidate could have saved America, they should have done it already.
I think if we can't see that when we have a relief package that is supposed to be to help the American people, and we have both sides trying to weasel in some bull crap for themselves, and then they do get paid very, very heavily, and we get chump change. If both sides can't look at that and see that we're all being screwed.
Let's just say it loudly. They gave us $1,200 of our own money back, while they took $70,000 a piece.
And all of their corporate businesses got bailouts.
None of their salaries.
America, did you have a small business that was destroyed by coronavirus? Have your kids been pulled out of school? Has your entire life been financially usurped by these shutdowns and lockdowns? Well, guess what? Theirs hasn't.
Mm-hmm.
None of their salaries got cut. None of them had to go draw unemployment. They got their,
and that's on both sides. Both sides.
And got a $70,000 bonus. Republicans and Democrats.
Both sides.
How are we okay with this? How are you okay with this? Whether you're a Republican,
did your candidate send you any?
Huh?
Did your congressman send you any of that money, Patrick? Just curious.
No. And here's a question for you, John. Did you consent to that?
I did not consent to that. I don't remember giving a vote on that specific issue.
Neither did I, brother. Neither did I. And I don't think any of you watching did, and I don't think any of us did. We sit here and we watch right now while they argue about supposedly whether unemployment should be an extra $400 a week or $600 a week. What it really is in the back they're trying to figure out what companies they're going to, which ones of their interest are they're going to protect. That's what it's really about. That's why these bills are 1,200 pages long. Because I don't know if you've ever tried to read one, but damn, I'm telling you, it's not a lot of fun. It's more legal number than I've ever heard. But no, the problem is this. This is the problem. Whether you are a Republican or Democrat, conservative or liberal, whether you come on here and you want to defend your position or not defend your position, the problem is we're all getting screwed either way. And the longer we fight amongst ourselves, the longer we get screwed. Absolutely. This is why I'm asking you guys to put down your swords with each other, talk to each other, get to know each other, understand that we are all Americans. We are all in this together, period. Period. At the end of the day, we are all we got. And we are the ruling class of this country. Or at least we're supposed to be. We are supposed to be the ones in charge. We're supposed to be the people.
This is a replica of the Declaration of Independence. I just want everybody to know, let's write a new one. I'm saying Let's declare ourselves independent of the power monopoly that has stagnated our governmental process for the last 100 years or so. I'm not talking about specific candidates. I'm talking about the American people taking their country back in a real way, not killing our neighbors, not disowning our family, not destroying each other in the streets, but making this a reality. We, the people, in order to form a more perfect union, that is what we need to do. I'm giving you my Declaration of Independence.
We need to unite, Mimi says. Mimi, you are absolutely right. We need to come together. This will not be done through violence. And it can't be done through violence because violent revolution never works. Peaceful revolution is long-lasting and works. And we have the ability, we have the law on our side, and we can absolutely do this. But we have to come together. We have to stop bickering amongst each other. So when you're in these comments and you're having these conversations, I want you to think about all the things, whether you're on the left or right, that you see wrong with this country, and ask yourself this: is this being done to us or by us? Because if it's being done to us, it is our job to stop it. It is our obligation to stop it. This will only stop with us, you guys, only with us. We either come together or we don't. That's what the stakes are. So every day when I'm talking to you about building you up, being a little bit better today than you were yesterday, when I'm telling you to talk to you or to use the right mindset and to build yourself up, right, and to help build other people up. You know why? A, because it's the best way to live your life, and B, because a united people working towards the same common goal of building each other up and having something better for everyone, respecting our individuality while still encouraging each other to be better. You guys, welcome to Breathe America. There's a
kind of
reason
sounds similar to the American dream, don't it?
There's a reason we're here. There's a reason we've all been brought together. There is, I'm telling you. And that reason is for this, is to build each other up, to grow, to become a very solid, loud voice that that they will be forced to hear us. And when that day comes, it will be all of us standing together. None of us will stand alone. We love you too, Lindsay. And you know what? I couldn't think of anyone better to be by my side than all of you.
So
all right, we're about to an hour. Wrap it up. What do you got?
I just wanted to say, when I joined Breathe America, I'm not a very political person, but I joined because I did want to see unity and I did want to see this country heal. And I didn't know what I was walking into whenever I messaged Patrick for the first time. And I've got to say, I really can't tell you guys how amazing this team is. Like everything that Patrick's telling you guys out here, he's telling us the same thing. We have liberals, conservatives, independents. I mean, we've got everybody in our mod group, and they literally sit here for hours and discuss this stuff. And you know what happens is 9 times out of 10, they find out that they don't want different things. They both want the same thing. They just both have ideas of how to get there that are different. And so it's been such a beautiful experience for me to get to know all these guys, and they make me really smart when I listen. And it's beautiful. And yeah, welcome to Breathe America. It's time. The time is now.
Time is now. John?
I love you, breathers. God bless America. Let's keep America for Americans and not our American government. You are not your politics. You are not your party. You are not the color of your skin or your religion or your ideology or anything else. You are an American citizen, and a whole set of laws has already been wrote to make sure that you can be happy, you can pursue happiness, and you can have that civil liberty. We just need to go back to it.
And I have one shameless plug.
Chris brought up a good point. Chris brought this up. Chris, I think you should read it. Go ahead and read it out loud.
I'm not reading that. Thank you. I already saw it. Thank you, Chris. I love you.
And Kristen, we all know how humble you are, but we wouldn't be as far as we are without you either, because of your amazingness and the fact that you have a steadfast dedication to detail, learning, administration skills, the dedication to the dream, and the American concept of freedom. God
That is
bless
not
you,
what he
Kristen.
said, John Lee. That is not what he said.
Yeah, but that's what he
I
meant.
added in 2 words.
2 words. My butt. So look, I do want a shameless plug. We've got
Do it.
3 new groups up now. The website's up. We've got 3 new groups. We've got Ladies Club, which is obviously the best one. And then we got that man's cave over there. And then we have a new LGBTQA plus group. And we're adding more soon. We've got the book club that's going to kick off in about the next week or so. We're going to start going into chapter 1. We've got the Amazon wish list, which you guys, I gotta say, I was in tears last night because we literally put the list up, and 6 hours later, every single item was bought for a family in need, and that is freaking amazing. So go check out the website. We have a lot of stuff going on. Join all of our other groups. It's going to be really awesome. And I think that this is really going to benefit everyone.
So, man club or man cave, we're struggling a little bit. I got to be honest. I got to just put it out there. We haven't quite been on top of it. We weren't quite ready, but we wanted to launch with the ladies group. We have got some things coming for you, and we'll get a whole lot more active in there in the next few days. So thank you for your patience. I love you guys. And don't worry, our numbers look great. Don't listen to what the girls say. We're going to be just fine. Now, second, for all the other groups that we've got, book clubs and everything else, the whole purpose of these extra group guys is so that we can become closer. We can build that relationship with each other, right? I'm not looking to it's not a divide and conquer kind of thing or anything like that. I've heard some of that said. No, this gives us an opportunity to get to know each other better and discuss, more targeted issues for people that are interested in those targeted issues, right? So please keep that in mind as we go into these groups. Also, the Amazon wish list is a big deal. You guys, we have the ability to actually help families in need, okay? And we did it all with technology. It took a little bit to figure out how to do it, but it's really quite amazing. And these guys took an idea and they built it in the back end without anybody knowing it was going on, and they did an amazing job with it. So if you or anyone that you know is in need of help, go to our website, go to the community outreach program. Now, I've gone back and forth over the last hour in my head. I've been having a whole conversation with myself on whether or not I should bring this up or not. And I think I'm going to bring it up because I think you guys deserve to know. So we're not just going to have the Amazon wish list. We have decided that we want to start something called the Breathe America Relief Fund. Now, what this is going to be for is for helping families in need that need help keeping the electrical bill on, or they blew a tire or whatever. So we can actually help in a monetary way. And we're gonna figure out how to do this, and it's coming. It's coming really soon. It's going to be a really great idea for everybody. And with everything that's happening, one of the things I want to do more than anything is come together and be able to help people. Whether that's with Christmas presents for your kids through Amazon, or whether that's helping you keep your heat on during the winter, I don't care what that is. I want to be able to help with that. So we're going to facilitate a way to make this a very, very easy process for everybody that I think we're going to be able to do a lot of good. And so to all of those of you that went into the wish list and saw it and helped, thank you. I mean, seriously, thank you. You guys blow me away. And one of the things I have learned over and over and over again on this path is that people are so much kinder than I ever gave you guys credit for. And I got to say, I'm sorry. I spent most of my years being an ignorant asshole, not believing in the good of people, because you guys show me every day how amazing people are. So I appreciate every single one of you. What do you want to say, John?
I just wanted to point out that with the donations for the relief fund, unlike Washington, D.C., we're offering full transparency, so you can see where every dime goes. And we will make sure that you see every dollar spent, every dime spent, where it went, how much we brought in. There will be no profit margin. There will be no percentage taken off the top whatsoever. This will literally be a relief fund for people who need desperately emergency help in their life. And whether that, we know that's a very topic, but we just wanted you guys to know that this is something that will be extremely transparent. so that you can see each dollar that you donate going to a good cause in real time.
Kristen, anything else you want to add?
Nope,
Are you going to yell at me later for go ahead and saying all that?
probably.
Probably. Yeah, it's probably going to happen.
I'll find something to yell at you about. So if it's not that, I'll think of something else.
Yeah, she yells at me daily, guys, daily. It's a regular thing. But Kristen, John, both of you guys, I appreciate all your help. Everybody in the back end, I love you guys. You guys are an amazing team. Thank you for believing in Breathe America and believing in me. And I hope you guys know that I believe in all of you as well. To all of you guys watching, I love you. Seriously, I love you guys. I love this country. And
Love this country.
I want my children to grow up in a country that they can be proud of and that they don't have to deal with these problems. I don't want this to fall on the next generation. I don't want to pass this problem on to the next one. I think we should solve it right here and right now and be done with it for the betterment for our children. That being said, be a little better today or tomorrow than you were today. Okay. And I hope you guys had an amazing day. Be kind to yourselves, build each other up, and we will see you guys in the comment threads. Have an amazing night.
Bye.
Uh-oh, I didn't end it. I hit the button, but it didn't hit the